So for about a couple of weeks now, a lot of players, including myself, have somewhat gotten used to the state of Red Dead Online and the challenges that it has provided for the most part. However, most of us who are completely new to the game may still have a bit of a hard time adjusting to the PvP aspect, which is the Showdown series. For those of you who are unaware, the Showdown series consists of several game modes that pit you with or against other players to see who's the best in the West. You have the option of doing the regular Showdown series that holds up to 16 players, or you can play in the large Showdown series which holds up to 32 players total. The only difference between the both of them is that the large Showdown series nets you more money and experience in exchange for having to deal with the ensuing chaos that goes on within each lobby. And just a quick heads up, apparently Rockstar got tons of feedback from the community in terms of the in-game economy, so now for each game that you play in, you should have a raise in terms of payout, which is pretty damn neat. But with all that set aside, in this video specifically, I'm going to take it upon myself to go over each game mode and explain what the main objective is, even though no one asked me to do so because, well, I can. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see what strategies we can form, shall we?
I don't know, but it hurts. Oh, fuck me, what?
You know what? I fucking hate you.
To start off, we have Make It Count, a free-for-all only mode that follows the rules of an old-fashioned battle royale, or as the great Landon Rickles would like to call it,
an impasse, sir. An impasse.
In each session, your main goal is to kill the opposing players within the time limit and be the last man or woman standing. Since this is basically a YOLO situation, you have to be cautious about how you're moving around. If you happen to break character and perform non-discrete actions, so to speak, then you really shouldn't be surprised when you get murdered by someone else. Instead of running around like a chicken with its head cut off, be stealthy about it. Crouch like a lion who is closing in on its prey, and when the opportunity arises, proceed to pounce on your target and move forward without being spotted. At the start of each session, you'll be given either a throwing knife or a bow along with your trusty hunting knife, and since you have limited ammunition to begin with, you have to make your shots count. If you're using the bow, remember that drawing your arrow all the way back will increase your overall accuracy, giving you a higher chance of eliminating your target as well as increasing its draw speed. If you're using the throwing knives, you have to be within a certain range in order for your knife to make contact. If all else fails, then don't be afraid to use melee as a substitute option, as it'll usually get the job done. Just be wary of your stamina gauge, as it'll decrease as you're trying to stick your knife through someone's gut.
Die! God.
Throwing knives fall into this category as well, since they also act as a substitute weapon, so don't be shy when it comes to slicing and dicing the opposition. And if and when you do kill someone, be sure to loot their body to reclaim your lost ammunition, or just walk over their corpse just to get it back. You have to remember that every shot counts, and you're going to need all the ammo that you can get, especially when you're in close quarters combat with someone. When you're closing in on an enemy, your controller will start vibrating like crazy, sort of indicating like a heartbeat in game. When this happens, the faster the beat that goes on, the closer you are to your opponent. In this case, you should treat this like a personal radar and use it to your advantage. And while we're on the topic of a radar, if you try to camp and stay in one spot, you'll briefly be on the radar until you start moving once again. So unless you're trying to bait other players, which I doubt most of you are going to do, it would be best to keep moving at all times. By the way, if you didn't know, you can actually win each lobby by doing absolutely nothing, surprisingly. For example, if there are 3 players alive and 2 of them manage to trade kills with each other at the exact same time, which is actually a thing in this game, then you can walk away scot-free without having to do jack shit whatsoever.
You goddamn bitch!
At the end of it all, you just have to watch your back at all times and you'll be definitely good to go. Also, if you want the maximum immersion, play this game mode in first person. Trust me, it'll be worth it.
What the fuck?
Next up, we have the Deathmatch with a point value twist, otherwise known as Most Wanted. In this game mode, you must strive to the top of the leaderboards by killing enemies and gaining points in the process. Except in this case, for every kill that you get, your own value goes up. And for those of you who are probably confused at this point, allow me to elaborate on the subject. Each player within the lobby starts out with a value of 1 point. That value over their head increases with every kill that they gain over time. Sooner or later, a blip will pop up on the map indicating the player who currently has the most points above their head, and so on and so forth. Your main objective is to find said player along with anyone else you come across and proceed to eliminate them within the area. For those of you who are probably freaking out by not being able to see other players on the map, then there's no need to worry. When you're in a certain proximity of another player, they'll briefly show up on the map. However, there are going to be times when they don't show up at all, even though they're somewhat near you, and proceed to put a bullet in your skull, which is actually quite common in most case scenarios. From this perspective, it's best to approach the scene with caution. Since we already know that half the lobby is going to go after the player with the most amount of points on their head, it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily. Instead, you should take this opportunity with a grain of salt and pick off the weak links before heading for the main prize. That way, not only will you acquire a good amount of points in the process, but you'll also be able to come up with a couple of tricks that'll turn the tide of the battle in your favor. It's also a good opportunity to be that asshole and humiliate other players just for the fun of it. For example, I decided to hogtie some random jackass who had immediately pissed me off in the session and proceeded to euthanize him because f*** him.
You can do that? Why did you do that?
Cause f*** 'em.
This would also be a good time to tell you that over time, your value will start to decrease or increase, letting you know other players are getting ahead of you and ahead of the game as well. Not only that, but the value counter can reach its maximum based on the number of players in the game, so if there are 16 players total, then the value count will max out at 16 and everyone has the opportunity to get ahead by killing those who have 16 points and under, you know, all that crap. In other words, it's basically the quality of the kill and not the quantity.
Ah, shit.
Now that we have all that established, we'll now focus on the individual who is considered the most wanted. In other words, you. Like herding sheep towards their inevitable slaughter, this means that you have to hunker down, hold your position, and take out any bastard that's trying to take your spot. Be aware that you're going to die. A lot. But that's okay because I've been in the same situation. In this game mode, you can actually equip your own loadout before the session starts. Personally, I like the roll of 2 pistols, a shotgun, a couple of dynamite, and my favorite long arm to this day, the bar. I mean, the weapon is powerful considering the fact that you can put people down in about 2 to 3 shots or less if you're using special ammunition, but if your auto aim game is on point, you can easily just one-tap opponents in the dome. Oh yeah, you can also collect lootable chests throughout the game. Not only does it give you extra ammunition, but it also probably gives you a new weapon. I don't know why I didn't mention this earlier. Hostile territory. The game mode that pits you against one or several teams in order to take control of certain points around the map. Just like a regular game of domination, all you have to do is seize control of points A, B, C, D, or E, depending on which map you're playing on, of course. The number of points you gain in this mode for your team is relative to the number of bases you have under your thumb, so that means if you have one base, then you gain a continuous amount of 1 point for the duration of the match. In other words, more bases equal more total point revenue. When it comes down to this game mode, there are 2 ways that it can be approached. Option A, you can go on the offensive with a few members of your team, capture multiple bases in the process, kill off any foe that dares stand in your way, and establish dominance like you're the former king of Pride Rock. Option B, you can capture a base and hold down the fort while your minions capture the remaining bases for you. That would also mean you have to fend off any attackers that come your way. Personally speaking, I usually like to capture bases on the go while taking out the competition. That way, if anyone from my team is following me, we can capture the bases rather quickly since more people on the base equals a faster capture time. And while we're on the topic of time, it's best not to waste any at all since you're on the clock. We'll use this clip of me tackling GTA Man as a prime example. Now, while I did have the opportunity to kill him from behind just like any other normal person would, I personally wanted to look him in the face and show him the exact same pain that he's caused me from that one race that shall not be talked about. But it's also because of this grudge that I've wasted precious time that I could have used to capture bases instead. So unless you want to torture your enemies by hog-tying them and then blow them to kingdom come, it's rather best to capture the remaining bases and win at all cost.
Come on, Z, why are you running? Why are you running?
If you feel as though you're short on time, then grab a nearby horse and start hauling ass. Not only are they great for transportation, but they can also cover a lot of ground and help you get to bases very quickly. One last thing that you need to know is that in this game mode, it can easily be in your favor as well as turned against you at the last moment. Should you or any other team capture and hold all bases at the same time, then it's an automatic domination which results in an automatic win regardless of how many points each team has gotten. Enemies can easily slide into your DMs and snatch your bases from underneath your noses, so once again, hold your shit and be on the lookout for anything suspicious. Now we have Team Shootout, another mode that requires you to carry all of your allies into your satchel and hope for the best. I'm pretty sure this one doesn't require that much of an explanation, but just for the sake of it, here it is. When it all comes down to it, all you have to do is just straight up kill folks and that's it. That's basically all there is to it in this game mode. Depending on which Showdown series playlist you're playing on, it can either be crazy or hectic. There are going to be a lot of things going on at once that you won't be able to control. You're going to have bullshit deaths happen to you every once in a while, some of them probably being your own fault mostly. Just like hostile territory, all you have to do is have some form of communication with your teammates so that you guys can plan ahead of things or give the basic callouts that'll help keep you alive for the most part. All in all, you just got to have faith.
Hey, Patrick, I thought of something funnier than 24.
Let me hear it.
The mere fact that he can't even kill me with auto-aim. And finally, the last game mode that we have upon our hands, Name Your Weapon. This game type can either be played in free-for-all or in teams, and it's probably the only mode that's going to give you a headache due to all the bullshit that you're going to face from it. Just like Most Wanted, Name Your Weapon heavily rewards players based on the quality of the kill and not the quantity. Each weapon has a specific point value that contributes towards your total score, so before you start dropping bodies, you have to know which weapon gives you which points. Beforehand, the game does tell us that the higher the point value a weapon has, the more difficult it is to use, so be on the lookout and just be careful. Starting off, we have the repeaters and the rifles. Kills with these weapons grant you 1 measly point. Then we have the revolvers and the pistols. They grant you 2 points for each kill. Shotgun kills reward you 3 points apiece for everybody that you devastate, and throwable kills, in this case the tomahawk, give you up to 6 points for each body scalp. Lastly, we have the melee weapons, which include the hunting knife and your bare hands, which gives you a total of 7 points. But wait, there's more. You have the sniper rifle, either the Carcano or the rolling block, which gives you 6 points for every head that you pop. Then you have the mounted weaponry, which includes the Gatling gun, and the cannon.
There we go.
Nice.
Kills with either heavy weapon give you a total of 5 points. And lastly, you have the dynamite bow and arrow that gives you a whopping 9 points for each kill that you get. These can only be attained from the train that comes through mid-game, and when that happens, you have to book it since you're not the only one who's going to take advantage of this opportunity. Since each train appears with 2 sets of bows total, that equals 4 shots altogether. Those 4 shots can equal 36 points total and can easily put your team ahead of the others, so you have to be careful with your shots once more. From some of the sessions that I've played through recently, I quickly realized that nowadays almost everyone, including me, is going to go for either tomahawk kills or shotgun kills simply due to the fact that they're somewhat easy to handle and utilized. Almost every other session that I had after some time had no type of variety, which is a shame if we're being quite honest with each other. Every other session that you're in is just going to be nothing but a shotgun sausage kill fest. Add the fact that a majority of the player base are going to do those annoying ass swan dives for every time that they get shot at, and you'll soon realize that shit's going to get real old real soon. I know it's a basic strategy at this point since everyone adopted the concept from GTA and the rolling epidemic in there, but still, it's going to be quite a headache to deal with, so you just got to be prepared for the worst. A couple of last notes before we finish off this topic is that you have to be careful of your surroundings. It's one thing to tackle a nuisance who's been giving you shit the entire round, but it's also another thing when someone comes and eliminates the both of you because you had a grudge. Just go ahead and kill your target quickly and efficiently with no problem whatsoever. Also, and this rarely happens, but if you and a couple other players actually tie up towards the end of the game, you'll be placed in what is known as sudden death. In this scenario, the first person to get a kill on the other will be declared the true winner of the match, so be sure to look at your score and be very wary.
Yes!
And that basically does it for this video. I know it was long, not that funny, and probably not beneficial to a lot of people, but as long as it actually managed to help someone out there, then that's good enough for me. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, love you all, and peace.